Spoken Labour.
I went to sleep that night without knowing it would be the last night I ever spent in that bed at my parents' house in London. Meredith, my mum shook me awake. The room was dark, making it obvious it wasn't morning yet, or not time to get up for school anyway. Mum, I mumbled in my half-asleep state. It's time to go. Everything I told you about those stories is true. It's time for you to leave us so you can train to be a protector. Your dad and I, we've done everything we possibly can to prepare you.
First Charge is the first book in the Destiny Initiative series by Amanda Steele. The book can be purchased in paperback from Amazon. The ebook can also be purchased on Kindle, Kobo, Apple Books, and many others. Spoken Thank you today for tuning in to Spoken Label. Spoken Label was originally set up at the beginning of 2016 and as of recording has over 200 sessions in our archive. Although the podcast can be heard on Anchor, iTunes, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and literally 10 or 11 other networks, the full archive can be found at Spoken Label, and all one word, spokenlabel.bandcamp.com. On Bandcamp, it is set as pay what you want, so you are entitled, if you wish, you can download it or stream it for nothing. But if you want to throw me a couple of pennies my way, it is always eternally grateful to help me maintain the operating costs and future running costs of this podcast. Enjoy. Spoken Label.
Hi guys, Andy N, Spoken Label, back in the house. We're on Zoom again today. Going down a bit further down south to an area I've never been to, but I know of it still. And we've got a gentleman with us, originally from the Harlow in Essex area, and I do know that area because my goddaughter, at one point, lived in that area. But anyway, I'll let him introduce himself. We'll jump straight into it. Markey, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody? Tell them who you are. Tell them where you came from originally, where you are now, and we'll take it from there.
Right. Hi, I'm Markey Mark Symmonds. I was born in Essex, but having lived up in Northumberland and then settled in Northampton for the last 40 odd years.
All right. So did you move away from Essex quite early on? Did you then take it?
Yeah, I was a baby when I moved away, and we lived up in Northumberland in Ashington, which is famous for the Charlton brothers. Legendary footballer.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so we moved up there, and then when I was about 7, we moved down to Northampton through the Labour Exchange, and I've lived down here ever since. And one of my pieces of poetry that I've written is actually written of my memories of Ashington.
Oh, cool. I might have to persuade you to read that later on for me in the second half.
Yeah, that would be great. Yes.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. So I think it's always good when you're doing your poetry. You give people stories and memories where you've grown up in different places. I've done pieces like that myself, of course. Brilliant. Okay, of people who I've guessed, obviously, we're here today to talk about your poetry. So you've got quite an interesting story here because you're telling me off mic before that you're registered dyslexic, weren't you, when you're 46? Now, did your poetry come before that then, or has it come since then, really?
A bit of both, really. My earliest memories, I grew up like a lot of kids of my age. My poetry influences would have been people like Pam Ayres. And I guess the poetry I did very early on as a kid was with song lyrics, and I would work song lyrics into poems. I was particularly into Gary Newman at the time, and a lot of his stuff worked quite well into poetry. And then I didn't do any, and then I met my wife some sort of 26, 27 years ago now, and we'd go out for a walk and we'd sit by the lake, and I'd just come up with either ridiculous poetry or love poetry, real softy stuff. And that was it. And then once I got diagnosed at 46, I went and did my GCSE English again and passed that. And then I just one day had this poem come into my head, and I wrote and I haven't stopped since. And it's very much a case of there's various things that influence. Sometimes it's what comes to me at 3 a.m. in the morning, can be completely out of the blue, or it could be that something's happened in my life that I want to write about, or it could be there's a new story and I want to make a statement about this.
Cool. Yeah. I think sometimes it is like when you're writing. I've come across doing all these podcasts where you get some people, like my case, I've been writing since I was a child. And like I said, yours is just a trigger, wasn't it, as an adult? And you just kind of carried on then, really, hasn't it? So, yeah, completely.
Yeah. And I think some of it as well was a case of when I would do it, and I got quite good reactions. I was putting stuff on Facebook, and I started my blog with some really basic poems. And I was getting some good reactions to it. And I think for me, it was the fact I'd been diagnosed with dyslexia. It was kind of like putting a thumb up at it and going, yeah, I'm going to show you I can do this. And it was kind of like, whereas I'd struggled at school in terms of keeping up with people, with other people and how they write and speed and things like that, suddenly I didn't have to. Suddenly I could be me. I could express what I wanted in a way I wanted. And as you probably see from my poetry, that I don't follow a normal form of poetry. I tend to write free verse, which suits me fine, because I don't have to make sure I've got so many words per line or so many lines a stanza and things like that. I can just write. And that for me is really helpful.
Yeah, no, I get you completely with it. Now, do you want to tell people a bit about, obviously, I found this interesting, we were talking tonight before, and it's worth hearing this again, I think. You're telling about the reading speeds you used to do at school, didn't you? And you were saying, like, obviously, I found that really interesting, like, it's kind of into what you said before, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, when I was at school, I thought I was reading really well and quite fast, and yet everybody else would finish books way before me. And I found if I read books for pleasure, I had to reread them, because you get part way through and think, hang on, where does that fit in? And you'd lose that. And it wasn't until I was diagnosed with dyslexia that I realised that some of that is about what's affected is your short-term memory as well.
I've got that.
With dyslexia. People think it's just writing backwards. Yeah. And until somebody points it out to you, and it kind of all starts to fit in, and you realise why you do things. And like the teacher would be writing on the what we called blackboards and now chalkboards or whiteboards, and they would roll them over. They were like big things that you could roll over, and you'd be writing stuff down, copying it from the blackboard, and everybody's finished that bit, and the teacher's rolled it over, and you're like, so can you roll it back a bit? I'm finished. And you feel like you're going at breakneck speed, and yet you're not keeping up with everybody else. And it's nothing to do with intelligence. And that's the thing. It's been associated with that people are thick and that, but it's nothing to do with intelligence. It really has nothing to do with that. You can be extremely intelligent or not so intelligent. You can still have dyslexia.
Yeah, I think you're dead right with that. I agree with you. I know certainly when I was going through it when I was a child, it was interesting because obviously they didn't pick up those sort of things when certainly like I'm only a couple of years younger than you. They never picked it up at that age. But what do you think to the theory of it's hereditary, it runs in your family's genes?
I think it is. My daughter was showing a lot of the signs that I had and expressing a lot of the feelings I had at school. And that started alarm bells ringing with me. And we eventually got her tested. And yeah, she's been diagnosed now with dyslexia. And it's like a breath of fresh air, because suddenly she can understand why she can't, why when it says 30 minutes homework, it takes her 3 hours.
Yeah.
And
you used to take me like that. Certainly.
Yeah. So. Well, we've been able to say to the school, look, an out of 3 hours homework isn't on. Yeah. If she does an hour and she might not complete it, but for her, that hour is the best she can do. And that's what you get.
Yeah, completely. Now, I want to ask you a bit more about your poetry, obviously, about you. Now, obviously, like I said before, I know we'll come on to your book shortly, but when did you first start performing your poetry?
I guess it was shortly after writing. I was putting stuff on Facebook, and I came across an event, and I think the first one I went to was Run Your Tongue in Kettering. And I went there to see what it was all about, and I got up on the stage and I read it, and it didn't sound brilliant. And there was a couple of other gigs that I went to in pubs and that, and I read my stuff, and I just saw all these fantastic performers like Kezabel Ambler and Jemima Hughes and
I'm due to speak to Kez soon, actually. Well, she's my
brilliant.
next one podcast. Speaking to her this Sunday, actually. So,
brilliant. Well, I got involved later on with Weaving Words, which Kezabel runs, and it's like a writers' collective, and you get together, and it's really good for sort of stimulating the brain and writing fresh stuff and sharing stuff. But yeah, so and it gradually kind of became a bit of an addiction, and I did script stuff that mainly around Northamptonshire. I did some in Peterborough as well, Muse in Peterborough. But yeah, it really, it was kind of seeing these people on the stage, and you kind of think, oh my, I can't ever perform like that, and you feel very inferior. Yeah. But you have to learn your craft, and you also have to learn to own it. And, and it's quite easy to sit there and think, oh, wow, I want to be like them. And I was doing that, and I think actually not performing on stage at the moment and doing Zoom, doing performances over Zoom, and we're doing them all over the world. I mean, Saturday nights I'm in Nashville as part of the Midnight Poets, and I've done Australia. I'm regularly up in Scotland performing all from the comfort of my home, and meeting other poets and talking to them, and what they were saying. Own the space. It's your space. Be you. Own it.
Agree.
And that's been a real thing for me to actually get my style across and not try and be other people's style. Yes, I get influenced by other people. I've been watching a lot of Benjamin Zechariah stuff at the moment, and that has an influence on you as well as sort of thinking, I've got some ideas to do this. But it's about owning it and doing it your own way as well. And you don't have to be a slam poet. You don't have to, give this almighty performance. There's people on Zoom who are reading their poetry in such a way that it's not necessarily a performance, but they read in such a way that you just bathe in this stuff, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm like that really, because I'm the sort of writer, I'm really a page poet, but I know that confident in the work with better pieces, more known pieces, I can go and do it like a drop of a hat.
Yeah.
And have people sat there spellbound thinking he's not a performance poet, but we believe every word he's saying. And I think pieces can cross over if you get the delivery right sometimes completely. So yeah, I agree completely there. So
yeah. But I think also, we have this image of performance poetry as it has to be this huge performance, and you see the poets who will do stuff completely from memory. But what's actually happened, particularly on Zoom, is a lot of people are reading an awful lot of stuff rather than sticking to 2 or 3 poems and just repeating those every time they go to an event. So we're seeing such diversity in poetry. Even people who will just sit there and read their poem, they might put some intonation behind it. They might, one poet that has absolutely blown everyone away, who does some spoken word, is Kathy Carson in Ireland.
I'm going to speak to Kathy. I want to get her on. On spoken label. I've heard her a few times.
Yeah, her stories and her prose and that is just mesmerising, and that's Kathy. I can't do that. I can't be Kathy. But then Kathy will say, I can't be you. What you do scares the hell out of me. This is what I do. And so I think it's great to see other people. It's great to get ideas and see what works and what doesn't. But I think you've got to be true to yourself. And actually, there's nothing wrong with sitting there with a big book and
Don't
doing
worry about
poetry. Yeah. So,
what are you like?
yeah.
What are you like after your dyslexia? Because I mentioned the dyslexic point of view. That when I go on stage, I can't memorise because of dyslexia. It knocks my short-term memory out to spout. But and those long-term.
Yeah.
But I have to have a piece of paper in front of me to read your poems on. Can you do it without your piece of paper?
No, I mean, I'm one of these modern poets. I tend to use electronic kit on stage, so I read off my Kindle and stuff. But I could probably do it, but it would take me a lot of practice, literally, day after day, just reciting and reciting and reciting to remember one poem. And I think that would limit me in some ways, in that I might take 3 poems around for months. And actually, if you're doing 6 or 7 events in a month, you kind of, next time you want to go, you feel like you want to take something fresh.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would be difficult. I could do it, but it would take a lot of practice and that. So, and because some of the stuff I do is very pacey, particularly some of the political things, and you get that rhythm going. Sometimes I kind of start to fall over words, etc., and some of that's part of my dyslexia. So having that crib there, it just keeps you on pace. You're going to be interviewing Kezabel soon, and she always has hers in front of her as well, and is a fantastic performance poet. So it kind of gives you that crib, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. And more you're seeing people standing there actually reading off Kindles and phones, and I think it's whatever works for you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I tend to prefer a piece of paper normally, but that's because of my eyesight, really. I'm partially sighted as well.
Yeah.
So I'm bottom and I am. So yeah, I'll get you so completely.
I mean, the beauty with paper is you don't have to scroll through it. And I'm gradually going to start going over towards print offs and things like that for that reason. Because you don't have to scroll through your Kindle, and every now and again you might tap it and something comes up and you've got to get rid of it. So it's all about developing that craft, really.
Really, yeah, no, great. Now, obviously, we're here today to primarily talk, and we've done this in a very roundabout way, which is very me, really, and I suspect you as well, mate, to talk about your book, aren't we? Rhythm of the Ink.
Yes.
Now, as of recording, this has been recorded a couple weeks before Christmas, and it'll be going out in January, of course, 2021. And your book's going to be out somewhere around about the point of this podcast, actually, by chance.
Yeah, we're hoping the end of January, beginning of February. As soon as I've got a definite date, that'll be all over social media.
As I expect, is the best way.
Yeah, and what I've done, I mean, since I started writing in about, I think it's 2016, 2017, I started off doing my blog, which has probably got about 150 pieces on it. I stopped doing that for a while, and that was about, I wanted to publish stuff in a book or in pamphlets, and there was a lot going around at the time saying, well, people actually wouldn't accept submissions if you've put them online, which includes blogs, etc.
Personal blogs, yeah.
So most of my new stuff from the last couple of years isn't on my blog yet. It will be. So what I've gone down the route, partly because of lockdown and having the time to do it now, is I thought, right, I've got to get some written material out there. I want to start putting my collection out there, and so I sat down and started putting it together. And there's around, at the moment, it's in its infancy. It's gone off to the publishers, and there'll be a bit of to and fro into, we might take the odd bit out and put a bit in and things like that. But there's around 50 poems in there. It's about 100 pages. Okay. And it's called Rhythm of the Ink, the First Wave.
Okay, well, I always like to ask questions. Why Rhythm of the Ink then, the first wave, as a title?
Right. Rhythm of the Ink, I kind of have branded myself with that because I think, because I do a mixture of written poetry and, for want of a better word, performance or spoken word poetry. So it's kind of very rhythmic. Poetry for me is very rhythmic. I use mainly rhyming poetry as well. And the first wave is kind of the first wave of my poetry. So it's kind of the first lot. But in that, what I've done is mixed some of my original stuff that I've written with some of the new stuff. And it's the first wave that will wash over you. And so that's the thinking behind it.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Good way of doing it, that. I think what you've done is, tell me if I'm wrong with this, but I get the impression it's almost like your greatest hits so far, isn't it? Or not necessarily greatest hits, but I want you to with a good representation of yourself up to date. I get the feeling.
I think it is, but when I was writing it, I thought, well, I've got so much here. How do I do it? And I kind of tried to move it through a journey through me almost, a journey through my thinking, through my life. So there's a section on bullying, for instance, because I've written several poems around bullying. There's one on social media. There's one on anxiety. So there's some, there's all sorts of bits and pieces in there. There's stuff on dyslexia. There's other stuff on senses and that. So I've tried to mix and tried to give a good representation of what I do and a good mixture of what I do. It's very easy to, particularly at the moment, the stuff we're doing on Zoom, where you're doing a lot of political things. And sometimes you get branded then as a political poet, when actually you're not just writing political stuff, you're writing all sorts of stuff, but actually for the time, the political stuff is what comes out. So this was about showing people that I do a whole range of poetry, not just the political, not just the deep anxiety, not just the crazy brain stuff.
Yeah. No, good luck, mate. Definitely with that one. I've got to ask you as well, how did you find out about Mel Wardle Woodend? I love Mel. Right. I've had her on Spoken Label twice now. Fantastic lady. Yeah. Great fun.
Oh, she's wonderful. I found out about her. I did a spoken Word Stafford had a spoken word a spoken word event on, and I said, yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that. And so that's how I met Mel, and she's been at various other Zooms, etc. And then she asked me if I would be part of a thing she did around. Well, there was two things I did with Mel. One was Poetic Vision, where she actually compiled a book of pictures that photographers had taken, and then poets matched poems to those pictures, and that's been printed, and it was actually done to raise money for Guide Dogs for the Blind. And I got a piece in there called Cry of the Dark. So, and then she also asked me to do a piece where she was promoting dyslexia during National Dyslexia Week. And as you know, Dreamwell Printing, which is the printing press that I'm using, she specialises in a dyslexic font, so it's easier for people to read. And so she asked me she knew I was dyslexic, and asked me if I would do some open mic stuff on there, along with a collective of other dyslexic people. So that's how I met Mel. And then I saw the quality of the Poetic Vision book that she did, and I thought, right, I'll approach her, and we had a conversation, and by mutual agreement we decided to do it.
Brilliant. No, great stuff. No, sounds great idea, mate. Good luck, mate. Definitely, mate, that one. So right, okay, do you have any sort of plans of doing like a launch for this when it comes out in next year, or are you not sure yet?
Yeah, we're hoping to launch. I mean, the way things are going, it'll probably be a Zoom launch, which actually is not so bad, because obviously what we've managed to do is, you know, we've met so many people from all over the world that, you know, the Zoom launch seems the best way, because then so many, you know, people from Australia and America and Brazil, etc., can all, you know, take part in that if they want to. But yeah, we'll have a formal launch, and then I'm hoping to do some guest spots at a couple of events around that time, which will be focusing, probably my sets will probably focus on work from my book. And so we'll take it from there. So we're gradually building things up, and obviously nearer the time, my social media campaign will burst into more life about the book and things like that. The book as well, the forward in the book has actually been written by an Australian poet, Kelly Van Nelson, who is now the #1 selling poet in Australia.
Yes, I've been speaking to Kelly as well.
Yeah, I'm really honoured that she agreed to do that for me. And again, you know, I see Kelly very often, very regularly on the Zoom poetry, etc.
I didn't know she was #1 selling in Australia, so making a note.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's what I love about chatting to people like you, Markey. Like, it's I know stuff and you know stuff, and sometimes it's great you get to take that information on people, definitely. So, right, mate, listen.
And that's great. And to be honest, that's how the poetry community has really built over you know, the lockdowns and things like that, because different people, you meet different people at events and you mention another event, and then next minute, you know, everybody's dived onto that event. So you might have an event that might have only had 10 people, 15 people, and suddenly there's 30 and 40 poets queuing up, all to do open mic, because everybody's sharing with everybody else, and, you know, we're all going to the same things, but we're also doing different stuff. I mean, I've done a couple of fringes. I did Bradford Fringe as well, and I've just had some, along with several other poets, as part of a piece that was done by the press that prints Kelly's books. It was done for them, Make Magic Happen, and it was a home and away poets. So there was Australian poets and international poets, and we pre-recorded and then streamed into the Melbourne Festival.
Brilliant.
So our work's gone out all over the world, really.
Brilliant. That sounds a good idea to me, mate. Right, okay. I want to ask you a couple of quick questions about future projects now to conclude with, or second last been concluded. I know you've been telling me before as well, weren't you, that you're considering writing some children's stories, aren't you, as a possible future project?
Well, yes. I apart from poetry, I do write flash fiction. Although I've concentrated on the poetry the last sort of 18 months. But I also, some time ago, wrote a child's, for very young children, about Snufflepuff the dragon. And I tried it out on some local children, and they absolutely loved it. And so what I want to do is develop that into probably a series of small books for children, and see if I can get a publishing deal on that, and put that out. So yeah, I'm also developing my YouTube channel. I've just had a couple of videos. Next one will drop on Thursday, and I've put a couple of videos on there that Dre Zera's actually helped me with, and done some of the atmospherics on it, etc.
I love Dre. Do you actually know I do do you know I do a podcast of him?
Say that again. Did
you know I do a podcast of him?
Do you?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. We do a wrestling podcast.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah, that's right. He's really into his wrestling.
He's bonkers, but I love him.
Yeah. and then the other thing, I probably early next year after the book launch, I want to follow up probably with CD and some downloads as well, because I mean we kind of need to start moving into those areas, that the areas of media that people are taking poetry and all sorts of things from, is downloads and CDs and things like that. So I'm going to be looking at getting some of that sort of stuff done. And again, that gives people, if I go to open mics, I've got something to give away to people, or, you know, people can contact me and say, oh, you know, have you got some of your stuff that I can listen to? So, you know, there's a whole range of things. But I think for me, it's been about just planning that. And again, that's where Kezabel helped out, because I contacted Kezabel and said, look, this is what I want to do. And she kind of talked me through and said, well, you know, you need to decide where you want to go. These are some contacts, try this, try that. And then it kind of made me refocus on everything, you know, and start building things up and that. But again, build them at my pace.
No, good luck, mate. Definitely with it. So sounds great fun. Now, if people want to find out more about you, where are the best going?
Right. Well, there's several places. They can go on my Facebook page. If they put Rhythm of the Ink into Facebook, it should get me up, or Markey Mark Symmonds. I'm on Instagram, and I'm on Twitter, and also they can go to my blog, which is rhythmoftheink.com.
Fantastic. Right, okay, that's all my questions today. So should we take a quick break, let you get a few poems together, and we'll come straight back to it in a couple of moments. Is that okay, Mark?
Okay, brilliant.
Wicked, great stuff today. If you enjoyed it. Right. Hanging out, everybody. I'm looking forward to this. See you on a minute.
Spoken, mate.
Hi, guys. Still living with my market. Over to you, buddy. I know you're going to do 4 poems for us today, so go for it, mate.
Okay, this first one's called Pineapple Fritter and Chips. And this was the one I wrote about my memories of being in Northumberland when, as a kid, my mum worked in a chip shop there. And I used to, during the school holidays, I would go to the chip shop and I would sit on the windowsill and I'd eat pineapple fritter and chips. And so this was the poem I wrote about it. In a northeastern town where the pits have long since closed down and the big Geordie scrapes coal from the head of the mine, there stands a chip shop that smells so divine, where I sat on whitewashed windowsills at lunchtime. The smell of battered fish, of pies and sausage, mingled and lingered with the vinegar and salt splashed on hot chips and bags of battered bits. In my shorts, I would sit with my wooden fork in hand, admiring golden potatoes and the batter on the ring of the pineapple atop a portion steaming in my lap. The vinegar pooled at the bottom, dragging the salt with it. The blow of the chip, gingerly nibbling the end in anticipation of that burning sensation on my lip and the exploration of taste upon my buds as I devoured those fried chipped spuds. Batter, crispy but soggy inside, gave up the sweetness of the pineapple ring, which it did hide. The juice, as I bit it, rolled around my tongue, clearing the palate of the sharpness that the chips had brung. Customers came to and fro to buy the last of the food to go. I watched as Mum served up the golden heaven in newspaper, which enhanced the vapour. Soon would come the polis. There were 2, standing drinking tea and having a free lunch too. Incentivised them to stay while takings were counted for the day. I finished my chips, the smell so divine. Greasy paper with damp residue is all that's left behind. Now I'm a man and those days are long gone. But as soon as I smell the unmistakable aroma, I'm back in that northeastern town on the windowsill with pineapple fritter and chips and the occasional pack of battered bits.
Fantastic. Really, really evocative, that. I'm glad I asked you to do, kind of persuaded you to do that one, Mark. So I think it gives you a really good feel for you are as a person there, as your background. So brilliant stuff, mate. Thank you for that.
Right. This next one is called Bullied for Life. And I wrote this. Many poets write as healing. And I think for me, it was time to get it out on paper. And so I wrote this and I've performed it on several occasions and it hits home. I have people come up to me afterwards and go, that was me. You wrote that about me. So this is called Bullied for Life. I wanted to punch them in the face, Yet I wanted to hurt another member of the human race. I wanted to hit them and keep hitting them until their face bled crimson red, nose distorted, my boot mark on their head. Smashing and bashing and crashing, releasing all my anger, my energy, until they stop. But stopping wasn't enough. I wanted to hurt them, abuse them, batter and bruise them, and keep on hitting them until I drop. I wanted them to stop bullying. Name calling, the sly remarks, the hurt inside that caused the feelings to die. But I'd just stand there and take it. You see, I didn't dare hit them. I was scared. They might hit me back, punch me, kick me, break my back. Emotions high. I'd just stand and cry. I so wanted them to die. The thought of getting caught into trouble used to make my stomach tighten and bubble. The fear knotted up in me, as bad as the pain from the names. Sticks and stones will break your bones, but names will never hurt you. Ah, wise words from those who had not a clue, who did not face it every day, day in, day out. Strong people who could give the bully a clout. The people bullies stayed away from, detecting instantly who they could hurt and who would punch their lights out. Fat twat, fatty, hey, fatty bum bum, cry baby, the list went on. Every day, in every way, they could drive linguistic knives to slay, knowing they hurt and that I was weak. Every word cutting my body, my whole physique shook, clenched fist trying to resist. I tried to ignore them, but they hit me and cut me with more insults and abuse, words to disturb, making threats to keep me at heel. I was never sure whether they were real. Yet to me, they were. Man up, you're too sensitive, parents would say. They had no idea how I felt. No words they could say would ever make the pain go away. I had no idea how long these memories would take to heal. Every morning was a brand new day. Go to school and more the same, slowly driving me insane. I shouldn't have depression at 11 years old. I remember Dad speaking to the doctor, explaining I was depressed, distressed. Yeah, it was a fucking mess. Make him laugh, the doctor said, as if that could cure the hatred inside that so wanted me dead. The memories and fear running through my head, I wanted to cry. The only reason that I didn't die was because I was too scared to try. The desperate angst in my body, in my mind, leaving mum and dad and knowing they would be sad. Fuck it, there I go again. I was thinking of others before myself, not wanting to hurt anyone, taking all the self-blame. What if I failed and it didn't work, having to face the bully again? So instead, I lose myself in music in the safety of my home, where no one can reach me and I can be alone. Headphones blaring dulcet tones of bands that spoke to me and painted pictures of the underdog's fight that gave me words to describe my plight. They spoke to me of love and the fight, of feeling all right, of dreaming of wires and presenting arms of 1 in 10 and invisible suns. The rest of my life panned out the same. Useless at everything, A for effort, but little to gain. Still having to show restraint when over and over it happens again, where I hurt inside with the cutting pain as time ebbs away down the drain. But now I can kill them and inflict pain from deep within my dyslexic brain, slaying them with words, killing them with prose. Open the mic, let this sage go, destroying their secrets that only I know, killing the bullies one by one on the page and on the stage. Their day of reckoning has finally come, and in my head, I've finally won.
Superb again, that Markey. I can well relate to that one myself growing up there, because I got bullied myself at school, and it wasn't easy times. I'm glad I found that I've moved on, but you might forgive, but I always find I never forget. So
yeah, and I think though you move on, that experience stays with you through your life, and it impacts on so many things. And that's really, you don't really see that come out until further down the road, and you think, oh gosh, that's why that's happening. Something a bit different. now called Summer Days, and this I wrote a whole load of poetry one very hot summer when I was feeling in a really good mood, and so I've revisited these over Zoom. So this is called Summer Days. Sweaty, sticky, tacky heat, talking about the change in weather with everyone you meet. Rotary fans and ice cream vans, people making holiday plans. Windows down on cars and vans, babies out in pushchairs and prams, enjoying the heat with their mums. Barbecues start to be used, sausage and chicken and burgers, finger licking, washing it down and with a drink of your picking, flip-flops and shorts and summer dresses, children in swimwear, hats on their hair, playing for hours without a care. Venture out if you dare, sun cream on your body, hat on your head, protection from sunburn going red, lager and lime or grapes from the vine, the bottle of water from the tap, checking the forecast on the app and looking for the seaside on the map. Then comes the night, all sticky and hot. Pyjamas, or maybe not. On top of the duvet, the breeze on your knees, all the pollen has made you sneeze. A lack of sleep, daylight creeps on the bed in a heap. Get up early, out of bed, you leap into the cold shower to raise you from a deep sleep. On with the shorts and vest. You are already a sweaty mess. The summer is here to stay, and you want to make the most of every day.
Fantastic, yeah. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I thought you were carrying on then.
No. And what I want to do is finish with a piece that I wrote during lockdown. Again, it's quite a powerful piece. But a reasonably short piece. And it was written about the events that happened in America with George Floyd. And this is called Mum, I Can't Breathe. Mum, I can't breathe. My lungs don't fill with air. I'm dying here and you're not there. Mum, I need air. I can't breathe. This virus has got me, and no amount of PPE will protect as it crushes the life from me. I'm drowning and want to flee. If I die, the population will take to one knee. This virus is systemic, pandemic, rooted in our population, white supremacist, bigoted minds. This virus mutates time after time, but still families grieve, and Mum, I can't breathe. Laying here, unable to move, your voice I need to soothe. This virus just won't move. It's been following me all my life, putting me down, holding my wings, scared I might take flight. Tonight you'll cry, and I don't know why, but today I'm going to die. Mum, I can't breathe, as much as I try. Mum, I can't breathe. This virus is choking me, making me heave. The world will watch in disbelief, joining you in your grief. Watch this virus, for it wears a cloak that protects it while its toxicity chokes. It lurks under cover of white man's power, of political statements in ivory towers. From every day hate, they all cower. Mum, I can't breathe. Mum, it's time to leave this racist world to where I know not. And Mum, I can't breathe. Mum, I can't breathe. Mum. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you again, that Markey. It's a really good selection that there, mate. With pieces.
Yeah.
Are all four going to
Thank
be
you.
in the book? I take it then, are they?
There's some of them are going to be in the book. I'm not going to tell you too many because actually we might actually in the editing process, take some out and
Yeah.
add some in. But there are one or two of those that will appear in the book.
Great stuff.
So yeah, they will certainly be there. But if they're not ones that don't appear in this book, will certainly appear in future books. As I say, I've got so much material now that I need to do something with it.
Yeah, I'll get you completely. I can tell that. Brilliant. Well, good luck with it, mate. So keep in touch. So now,
Thank you.
thank you
Yes,
again, mate. It's
I
been a
will.
pleasure today. So hang around. Quick word you off, Mike.
Yeah.
Well, this is Andy N. Thanking Markey today. It's been a pleasure. Stay safe, guys. And Don Carlos says, stay over.
Spoken, mate.